Well, I want to welcome everybody tonight. I'm Dr. Jim Ladley, president of Profit Pro Ag. We're a company located in Albert Lea, Minnesota, and we work and market throughout the upper Midwest, and we extend into the Northwest and the Northeast part of the country too. I think we got a really hot topic tonight in talking about, really how we manage crop residue and why it's so important. And we put out a newsletter every month, and then we have our teleconference call the third Thursday of every month. And the newsletter you can get online, which is profitproag.com. And we're really going to follow that tonight in the content of that letter if you want to follow along. I'll use a series of PowerPoints. We also have a chat and box, so if you want to ask questions, we'll answer those at the end. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. There's the newsletter that I was talking about, and that is put out once a month. Right now, we're doing a series on the full circle regenerative and sustainable crop and livestock production system. This is actually part 3, where we're talking about, again, the crop residue digestion program. One of the things that I did a little bit differently on this is I attended a meeting this week down in Cascade, Iowa. And at that meeting, we talked about a lot of different things, but the objective of the meeting was the concern about getting nutrients and toxicity into our water system and waterways. And Dubuque City, there on the eastern side of Iowa, has been mandated to lower their phosphate and nitrogen in the waste treatment water. And as you know, there's really 2 ways of doing that. One is to spend a lot of money mechanically at the waste treatment plant to try to remove that, or go upstream and try to work with the growers. So they made a decision to go upstream and work with the growers. So there was a meeting there at Eric Miller's, what we call the Miller Valley Farms by Cascade, Iowa. And we have probably over 100 people there from the county and from the city and surrounding areas. And the whole focus of the discussion was working with growers like Eric Miller, who's doing cover crops extensively and doing different practices, reduce the application of industrial type materials like commercial fertilizers, and try to reduce the use of insecticides and fungicides. And Eric has been working with this year in both his corn, soybeans, and malting barley to try to implement those strategies with good success. In fact, I'll talk a little bit about the end of the program. We're going to have a field day down there next Wednesday, the 26th, that we would like to have you attend. It's going to start at 10:30 and run to about 3:30. And we're going to see a lot of things that Eric's doing, not only in the field, but also with how he set up his equipment to do that. He's actually planting twin row 60-inch corn with 17 cover crop species in between. He's also planting into medium red clover and also into ryegrass. So I think you'd really enjoy it. All you have to do is look on our website. We got information about that field day on the 26th, and just tell us you're going to attend. So we'd like to see you there. I'm going to go ahead and get started. John, my PowerPoint slides disappeared on me. Can you bring them back? There we go. So the discussion tonight is going to be, as I indicated, on the fall crop residue digestion and nutrient energy recycling. And I added another caveat in there after attending this program. and retention. What we want to do, of course, there's a lot of reasons why we want to properly manage residue, and we're going to find out what those are tonight. Now, the program that we've been working on, as I mentioned, is the Regenerative and Sustainable Farming System. And this system can be repeated indefinitely with a positive impact to the environment, food chain, and the consumer. It results in a net gain in soil productivity. It improves in productivity over time. About carbon fixation, where you're sequestering the carbon and building bioactive humus, and that humus is going to hold water. It's going to be a home for the microbes, and it will retain nutrients. We want to produce nutrient-dense food and feed to create healthy livestock and people. We want to improve air and water quality. We want to have a sustainable and profitable animal production system where animal health is superb. We want to see a net improvement in consumer health. As we're going through the pandemic right now, that's been a big issue. And we want to improve profitability. Like Eric Miller said, I'm in this to make money. So if I can lower my cost production, improve my yield and quality, and get paid for more what I produce, and that's really the key. We call it the Profit Master Full Circle System. At the center of it, that drives everything, is soil health. So we're going to be talking about that soil health aspect as we go through this evening. So the key takeaway is building soil. We call it think fence row like farming. And when I say that, where's the best soil on your farm when you really think about it? Is it in the field or is it in the fence row? The undisturbed soil that maybe has never been farmed. We know that that soil is nutrient rich. It's got a lot of biodiversity in it. It's got a lot of really bioactive, good humus in that area. And again, if we tear out that fence row and farm that, that's going to be our best ground for the next 5 to 7 years until we bring it down to the level that we're in the rest of the field by the way we farm. So we want to learn how to make the fence row on every acre of your farm, and that's really the key. We also want to talk about balance. Everything in life is about balance, and one of the key things in life is the microbiome is really about keeping things in balance, whether we're talking about the soil, or the plant, or the livestock, or even our own digestive tract. And it all starts, I believe, in a crop production system by looking at the fall crop residue recycling program. We talk about the full circle system. You may or may not have livestock. If you do, then we integrate the manure into there and the livestock. And it goes around every year, and every point in that circle is connected to the other. So it's important how you manage each aspect of the annual production cycle. And of course, again, it's all about balance in the center there. Biodiversity, mineral balance, mineral availability, and the soil carbon, and reducing toxicity. And if you have livestock in the program, we want to enhance the feed value and the water quality going into that animal. And we want to biologically treat the manure coming out before it goes back into the soil. This way, we reduced all the toxins and we deputrified it and improved it from a nutritional point of view for the soil and for the crop. And that's really the key. This chart I developed several years ago, and this is a very, very important chart. And really, managing fall residue can have a big impact on the quality of the crop being produced in the years following. It's called the brick scale. And it runs from 0 to 32. You use a refractometer. All you have to do is squeeze the juice of any plant, alfalfa, corn, soybeans, wheat, on the refractometer lens, and it will give you a rating of 0 to 32. Now, this is an indication of crop quality and value and how much nutrition and energy is in that crop. Now, anything below 8 is considered low quality. It lacks balance in nutrition and energy, and that crop is going to be attacked by insects and diseases, and we're going to have a lot of diseases and weeds in those fields. Anything that's not worthy of reproducing, God put insects and diseases to take it out. Man, in all his wisdom, sprays it with fungicides, insecticides, and then feeds it to livestock and eats it. And then we wonder why we have health issues in this country. A large percentage, I would say over 75%, maybe even higher, of the crops we produce in this country today fall below 8. We go out and measure them every year. And really 4 to 8 will catch most corn and soybean crops in the upper Midwest. I can drive down the highway and look at a crop and almost tell you what brick level it is by looking at it. And so we want to get higher in our brick evaluation with our crops. If you get up to 12 or higher, believe it or not, that crop has so much energy that insects can sense it and they won't even go in that field. They sense the subtle energy that crop is giving off. It has better taste and flavor. It has better storability. And again, as you start getting up into that range, the pressure of insects, weeds, and diseases go down. When you get up to more in the 16 to 18 range, energy really starts coming in. And then you get up above that is when the plant produces all the wonderful secondary metabolites that really put taste and flavor and quality into food and feed. It's superb. When you eat this type of food, it's just like eating heaven. This is where you get the high test weights also. And why trace elements are so important is trace elements are the ones that really put the taste and flavor and nutrient density and test weight into the grain. So the fall program, believe it or not, the fall residue program really pushes the crop to the upper end of the scale. And that's what we want to talk about. Okay, I just had to put some pictures in here of my garden. And this is a picture of one of my tomato plants. And what I've been doing is practicing everything that I preach in my garden. And so I have cattle paneling all around my garden because we live in 20 acres of oak trees with a lot of deer and raccoons, etc. And that tomato plant there is probably close to 12 feet tall. So as you see here, on the left side of the screen, this is pole beans. And I've got these 12-foot plastic rods there in the fence line, and they grew up to the top of that, and then they grew down again. And so next year I'm going to take and put 2 cattle panels there and see if I can have them grow all the way up. And I think it will definitely. So as you look at these pictures, you can see the lush green high brick crop that I got going there. And we're really enjoying that. There's a picture of one of my green peppers that has a lot of volume to it. And again, a high brick. It's a picture of my pole beans again. So let's get into now talking about the fall residue program. I call it really the second harvest. And carbon residue digestion is very important in trapping the carbon in the energy, nutrients, and secondary metabolites that are in the soil. Now, this digestion is done by the microbes, and we're going to talk about how we can assure that we got the right microbes there to get good digestion. Now, the thing we have to do is we have to have the frame of mind that when we get the combine ready, we got to get our sprayer ready. Hopefully we can have a shed we can put it in the evening because as we get into the fall, it gets cooler. I'm talking about treating sweet corn residue, pea residue, any kind of vegetable residue, corn residue, soybean residue, wheat residue in the program. And what we're going to look at and see is a dramatic improvement in soil health, the soil food web, including the structure of soil that allows for better drainage, aeration, and nitrogen fixation. This is probably one of the most important things you can do in your cropping program. And by doing it in the fall, these microbes have all winter to work. Now, what are we going to see? We're going to reduce and eliminate mycotoxins, root and foliar diseases, insects. We're going to help reduce weed pressures. And as you'll see in the value segment and at the end, I believe that a lot of this residue interferes with our pre-emergence herbicides and really creates a problem in getting effective control. Remember, pathogens and insects are nature's garbage collectors, and they're there to take out crops that are not worthy of reproducing. By eliminating toxins and building the bioactive carbon, biodiversity, nutrient balance, and nutrient availability, you'll reduce your cost of production over time. Yield, grain quality, and profitability per acre will improve. And we've seen this over and over again. This isn't a pipe dream, and we can help you do this. Also, we'll see an improvement in soil to seed contact, along with uniformity of the seed emergence and stand. There isn't a meeting I go to in the winter that they don't talk about getting uniform stand and uniform emergence. And again, by getting this residue properly pulled down into the profile, all the carbon, all the energy, all the nutrients, getting rid of all the diseases and insects and aflatoxins that are in there and opening that soil up, you're going to be able then to reduce tillage dramatically. And you may want to strip till, or it may allow you to do no-till. And this will all be because of the improvement in soil structure. And I like both no-till and strip till. What we want to try to do is reduce our overall cost of running equipment across the field. Equipment cost, fuel cost, labor cost, and time, just the time. I talked to a grower this week that said, since he's gone no-till, it's really helped him because before he couldn't get the labor to run the tillage equipment. And so the other big aspect of reducing tillage is keeping that soil food web intact. All those earthworm channels, all the mycorrhizae, hyphae, very, very important if you want to have sustainability and improve yield and quality and lower production cost. And then there might be an opportunity to receive carbon sequestration credits. And those programs are developing. Now, when we look at residue management by the numbers, 4 tons of residue per acre are left behind on a 180 bushel corn crop. About 2.1 tons of corn roots are left behind on each acre. When you look at the NPK value contained in those 4 tons of residue, it's about 80, 30, and 190 pounds. So you can see there's a lot of nutrition that's tied up in those residue, in that residue. You also have 16 pounds of sulfur, 35 pounds of calcium, 25 pounds of magnesium, and that's all in those 4 tons of crop residue. Besides, you got a lot of energy in there that you're going to bring down in the soil and a lot of carbon. You know, what I began to realize is that really carbon is a limiting nutrient in crop production. 45% of the plant above and below ground is carbon. And there's only 0.03% of carbon in the atmosphere. And crop production is all about energy production. And carbon, of course, is important because it drives the production of sugar or glucose. Now, I got some charts that are kind of interesting. It takes about 1,300 loads of carbon to build 1 bushel of corn. It takes about 100 pounds of glucose. It takes about 5,000 gallons of water. On soybeans, because you got more oil and protein and more energy, it takes 4,000 semi-loads of air to get enough carbon to build 1 bushel, or about 300 pounds of glucose, about 1,350,000 gallons. Now, when your soils are healthy and balanced, your water efficiency goes up. You're able to infiltrate water and hold it. So when we're talking to the group over there at Dubuque, wanting to take nitrogen and phosphate out of the downstream water in the watershed, if we retain the water where it falls instead of let it run off, and also sequester the P and the N with the organic matter and the microbes, we dramatically reduce the downstream pressure of those materials in the water. So the system does work, and it's very effective. So fence line farming is really all about soil health. And I think the picture on the left kind of shows the corn stalk breaking down and the fungi working on it, the white stuff there, and the hyphae. And these are some pictures that I took this year on some cornfields and a soybean field. And I think that with a lot of this residue being left and the soil's not being biologically active, and I think in many cases, this residue is costing us at least 30% of yield in many cases. So, I mean, it really pays to manage this crop residue. Now, how are we going to do it? Well, believe it or not, we got the team. We got the team here. And of course, the first component of the team is the microbes. So Meltdown has 25 microbes in it, and it has all of the what we call organic crop residue digesters, and it'll help again take out all of the insects and diseases and help you sequester nitrogen and retain the carbon in the soil, which in the process of breaking down cellulose and lignin. And again, just open that soil up and let it breathe. And then you'll start fixing nitrogen right out of the air. You remember, there's 78% of the atmosphere is nitrogen. There's 34,000 tons of nitrogen above every acre, and it's free if you can get it in the soil. Now, within Meltdown and many of the other microbial teams, we have all the microbes that will fix nitrogen, solubilize phosphorus, potassium, iron, and digest the carbon components of the residue. The next one is UBO, and UBO is a natural biological stimulant. And what it does, it just boosts the biological activity many-fold. And why that's important is because microbes produce enzymes. Enzymes are catalysts. And they're the ones that do the digestion and fix nitrogen. So UBO speeds that whole process up, and the microbes are producing more enzymes, digesting quicker, improving the health of the soil quicker, taking out the toxins in the soil faster, and solubilizing and balancing more of the nutrients. A very, very important component. The things that we've seen with UBO in combination with this microbial team this year has just been unbelievable. In plots in Iowa with actual producers where they've used this Meltdown and some of these other biologicals that we have, we've seen anywhere from 50 to over 90% increase in plant mass in the corn plants we looked at in the middle of June. So UBO has proved itself over and over again for the last 15 years and improving soil health, taking toxins out, dropping salt levels in soil, solubilizing and balancing nutrients. But when you put it with a good microbial product that's got 25 microbes in it, man, I tell you what, step out of the way. Now in organics, we're going to use what we call the Equinox 501. That's improved for organic production. The next one we're going to use is Pacific Grow, which is a fish fertilizer. Probably the best fertilizer I've found over the years I've worked with fish fertilizers. It's a high quality product. It's got a lot of amino acids and protein in it. It's got chitosan in it, which is very important in controlling pathogens and nematodes and stimulating the plant to grow better and produce a higher brick crop. It has oils and fats. It's a stimulus for the fungi that are needed in crop residue digestion. And it really does speed it up. I've got some tests going in the greenhouse right now with and without the Pacific Grow. And I'll tell you what, where I've got the Pacific Grow, I've got a lot more fungi activity. The next one is Sea Crop. And the reason I got that one in there, that's a Pacific seawater extract with 90 natural occurring elements and minerals. And before we can have an enzyme, we've got to have a trace element at the core. And so by having the trace elements there and supply those to the soil, to the microbes, we can produce more enzymes faster and more effectively. And then it's also helps with the overall nutrient balance of the soil for the plant coming up. And it really drives, the trace elements drive taste and flavor and nutrient density in our crops and forages. So very, very important. BioRelease is there as a compatibility agent, but it also unlocks unavailable plant nutrients in the soil or in the residue. And it's really effective in stimulating the fungi for breaking down the residue. Molasses is there as an energy source. And again, on the BioRelease and organic, we're using Soluplex instead. And then on the molasses and organic, we'll use the organic molasses. So the combination of these ecologically friendly soil and plant technologies speed up the complete digestion of crop residue and primes the environment, produce nutrient-dense, high-energy crops, high-brick crops, and profitable crops in the coming year. Again, very, very effective in doing that. Here's an example of a field where we had on the right, we had a biological, 25 microbiological product out. On the left, we did not spray that residue there. You can see the difference in the crop and early in the season even. So you can see how effective this can really be. Now, what are our options? So, you know, it really comes down to money. And I'm going to try to convince you to spend the money. Now, there's option 1, 2, and 3. Option 1 is simply using Meltdown, the 25 microbial formulation at 32 ounces an acre, sprayed in 15 to 20 gallons of water. This can go on right after harvest. The quicker, the better. And I had many producers tell me, even though they put it on and it got cold, man, the product still worked effectively. 501 can be used in organic. Now, if you really want to enhance it, then go to option 2. There, you're going to add the UBO C10 at 10 ounces. If you do that, you can drop the Meltdown to 24 ounces. And you can drop the 501 to 16 ounces rather than 24. Very, very effective again. But if you really want to do a good job and really want to have an impact and have all your neighbors talking, then here's a program that you may like. We come in with Meltdown at 24 ounces, or if we're organic, 501 at 16. Then we put the UBO there at 10 ounces, the Pacific Grow at 40 ounces on the conventional, 48 on the organic, and we put the BioRelease in at 8 or the Soluplex on organic at 8, and the molasses go in at 26 ounces. That makes a gallon per acre, and we can blend that. We got that blended into a product. Now, if you look at the cost of this, the first option where we had just the Meltdown that was $8 an acre, or the 501 was $9. If you combine it with the UBO at 10 ounces, you go to about $12.95 on both conventional and organic. The complete program that you're looking at here now, where we're putting a gallon of all these fantastic components in this mix together to really drive the residue digestion and improving soil health and all the benefits that we're going to talk about here in a minute. The conventional is going to run about $19.52 an acre, and the organic about $20.80 an acre. Okay, but think about it. What are you spending on insecticides and fungicides per acre? And if we can eliminate you spraying, an insecticide or fungicide, again, there's a lot of benefit here that we're going to talk about. Now, the other aspect of this is if you've had a lot of diseases and insects and nematodes during the growing season, or a history of that, you can add a chitosan product we call O2YS or O1YS for organic at 1 pint per acre with your residue digestion program. And that will effectively assure that we're going to take out all those insects and diseases that are there and help with the nematodes in the soil going into next year's crop. The only thing you got to be aware of is with this here combination in the spray solution, we got to make sure before we add the chitosan type product, we got to drop the solution pH to 5 or below. And you just do that by just adding a little bit of citric acid, which is very, very easy to do. Now, let's talk a little bit about the fall program as it relates to cover crops and manure application. Well, believe it or not, it really drives cover crops. So if you're doing a cover crop along with this program, you're going to see a enhancement of root mass and top growth on the cover crop. That cover crop is going to be producing more sugars, driving those down into the soil. Again, just pushing everything and making it even work better. You'll get a lot more out of your cover crop dollar by doing this. And that's going to show up next year in the crop, and the lack of insect and wheat and disease pressure, nematodes. But also, I really believe that if you do this program, it's really going to help your weed control. Weeds are there for a simple, very simple reason. They're there to help balance the soil back because it's out of balance nutritionally. If you add bioactive carbon, biodiversity, get rid of toxins, and put energy into the soil, weed pressures go down dramatically. So a lot of guys are fighting weeds right now. This is a good way to fight weeds. Also, by getting that residue out of the way when you're spraying your pre-emergence, you don't have it blocking, that product reaching the soil and reaching the weed seeds that are there. So that's very, very important. Now, I think this program would also be very beneficial to any kind of fall manure application program. Just spray it on before or after you put on the manure. It will really help get more money out of that manure. Now, let's talk here about what are some of the cost offsets for the fall residue program. Reduce cost and boost profit potential. What are they? Well, number one, enhance soil structure, create an aerobic zone to improve water infiltration and nitrogen fixation. If your soils are open and breathing, and you've got the right microbes there to fix the nitrogen, which there's about 5 of them in these cultures that we're going to be using, then you're going to be pulling the nitrogen right out of the air and trapping it. Thus, you don't need to spend money on, anhydrous or fertilizer or nitrogen as much. I'm not saying eliminate it, but you can dramatically reduce it. And I believe that if you improve soil health we can get our nitrogen down to a 1/2 pound per bushel produced and have very good yields. We'll fix it right out of the atmosphere. We'll make it more efficient. We'll take it out of the residue. We'll tie it up in the soil till the plant needs it. Remember, carbon and microbes will tie up nutrients, and they're less leachable, but they're bioavailable. We can dramatically reduce tillage and the horsepower requirements to till the field. We may be able to go no-till or do a better job of strip till. It's certainly going to reduce tire wear and equipment wear, and that's a big issue for a lot of growers, is the residue chewing up the tires. We're going to see better planter performance. And what I mean by that, the planter is going to have less hairpinning and plugging. It's going to work more efficiently and create a better soil seed contact and better planting depth. The soils are going to warm up sooner for earlier planting. And again, that soil seed contact is so critical. And a lot of times that residue interferes with that in the nitrogen fixation and availability. But just overall nutrient availability and balance throughout the growing season will be improved. And of course, we're going to cycle the nutrients that are tied up in that residue. Earlier, I talked about how much nitrogen and phosphorus and potassium and other elements like calcium and sulfur are tied up in that residue, laying on top of the ground. And we can build organic matter, which anchors the nutrients to your farm. And then how does it do that? Well, organic matter has a lot of surface area. It's made up of humic and fulvic acids, and they have both negative and positive charges that can hold nutrients and retain them. It holds about 5 to 7% of its weight in moisture. It's a home for the microbes. Also, within these cultures, we have the iron solubilizers. So I think we can help dramatically reduce iron chlorosis in soybeans in northern Iowa and southern Minnesota. And we've seen that the last couple of years. Really what we're looking at is really capturing more carbon in the soil as we build organic matter. I call it bioactive carbon, not dead carbon. Right now in a lot of our fields, because of industrial agriculture, we have a lot of dead carbon. It's not very biologically friendly. It does not do a real good job of holding water and nutrients. We want that bioactive carbon. That's stuff that turned over from last year's crop down in that soil profile. Now, I talked about CO2 being one of the major limiting nutrients that we have in crop production today. So if we can bring that carbon down into the soil, and as those microbes are working and living and breathing, they are going to release CO2 from the soil, and the plant will catch that on the underside of the leaf in the openings we call the stomata. And this can have a dramatic impact on yield. So if we can put more carbon into that plant, we can produce more energy, more sugar. And the relationship of the plant to the microbe. The plant tells the microbe population what it needs, and the microbes supply it and say, okay, I'm going to do this for you, but you got to feed me. I need some sugar. I need some secondary metabolites. And the plant says, well, I need these nutrients and I need some secondary metabolites from you too. Help me out. We'll help each other out. We'll be a team. And that's kind of how it works. So the more energy we can produce, the more carbon we can fix into glucose, the more we're going to drive all the important components of crop production and soil health, which is biodiversity and nutrient availability and balance and water retention. And we're going to improve the efficiency of our water. We're going to enhance herbicide activity and weed control by getting that residue off that surface. Over time, we are going to see a reduction in weed pressure. We're going to see, and I've had many guys say, we can even reduce volunteer corn in the field. So that's a benefit. And so we're going to enhance the overall soil biology, reduce toxins, and improve the cover crop benefits for the dollars we're spending on cover crops. Now, I want to make one comment here. If you're a producer that doesn't want to use cover crops, for whatever reason, I know it's about money, it's about time, getting the job done. These liquid biological formulations that we have, like Meltdown and 501, are really like liquid cover crops. So you can get the benefits you got out of the cover crop to some degree, not entirely, but at least as far as the microbial diversity, by using these liquid microbial formulations. And hopefully we can earn some money through carbon sequestration eventually. And the bottom line is we got to make money. So we want to see enhanced yield, and we want to see enhanced test weight. And again, if you go from 56-pound test weight corn to 61 at $4 corn, that's worth about $80 an acre. So again, there's money in it. So I think we're at the end of that particular program. So to summarize, I guess, you know, John, I had some more slides on the end, I think, there. Let me go back. Can you take me to the end of the program? For some reason, this didn't want to go ahead. I want to talk about the field there. Okay, there we go. Now, managing soil health, really, there's 4 basic principles we want to talk about. Keep the soil covered as much as possible. Disturb the soil as little as possible. Keep plants growing throughout the year as much as possible, and diversify as much as possible. I have a lot of producers now that are going to a three-way rotation with oats, with an underseeding of a clover. They're getting yields over 100, getting test weights up 39 pounds per unit. They're selling the straw. They're making money off that oat crop. But the next 2 or 3 years then, in the rotation with corn and soybeans, they're seeing benefits. And so diversify that crop rotation as much as you can. Here's just some follow-up research that's been done with Meltdown on stubble digestion in Nebraska, where they applied it to the soybean crop with the pre-emergence herbicide following a corn crop. So we had corn residue there in the spring. And the end result is it gave them 4.5 bushels per acre of the soybeans. So there definitely was a benefit there. Here's a field, corn stubble. And so we're really looking at corn crop growing following a corn crop, so corn on corn. And using the 501 in the fall, they picked up 10 bushel an acre. But again, this is only part of the story. What we're really doing here is we're building the soil health and yield consistency and stability there in the crop. Here's one where we're looking at corn stubble followed by soybeans, and they picked up 5 bushel soybeans per acre. Again, this is the first year. It's going to get better and better as we go from year to year. So again, the takeaway is simply, we want to go and create a fence row concept on every inch of ground we got in our fields. And it's all about balancing biodiversity, bioactive carbon, nutrient availability and balance, and get rid of the toxins. And then suppressing all the pathogens and diseases and insects. And it really starts with this fall residue program as the key. Now, you can contact any one of us. This is on our website. It's in the newsletter. And Dennis Klockengay, who is our consultant, crop management consultant out of Sauk Center, Minnesota. Chris Chowder works out of our Albert Lee office, or myself. We're available to talk to you and help you. Now, next week, we're going to talk about chitosan as a natural biocontrol agent for insect diseases and nematodes, and as it relates to the full circle system. And we'll have some growers on here sharing their stories. Now, here's what I'd like all of you to do. Next week on Wednesday, the 26th of August, we are going to have a fantastic field day at Eric Miller's farm at Cascade, Iowa. That's just south of Highway 20 by Dyersville South, kind of the eastern side of Iowa. We were down there last Tuesday and we had an unbelievable field day there. And not only will we talk about a lot of what we talked about tonight, but more. We'll see these things in action on his farm. He'll share his story with you. We'll look at the crop in the field and we'll look at the equipment he's using. And again, he's doing 60-inch corn, interseeding 17 species cover crops. He's planting into medium red clover, into annual ryegrass. And he's also producing malting barley, high quality malting barley. So it starts at 10 and runs till 3:30, and we'll provide a lunch to you. So please just call our office and sign up. And here's just some pictures of his fields, some of the twin row 60-inch corn with cover crops, some of the equipment that he's got there, showing planting into red clover with his planter that he kind of fabricated himself. And it's going to be a lot of fun. So again, we'd like to see you there and take part in the program. Also, in ending, I'd like to just comment on, we do have our early order product discount program put together for this year, and you can get it off our website, or as you can see here, we got some pretty good discounts starting in September, 12%, October 10 to 9%, November 8 to 7%. So you can lock in some of these programs and systems that you need to improve your farm early and get quite a savings on that. I mean, if you can make 10, 9, 8% on your money, that's pretty good, I think. So we'd like to have you consider that. So I guess that kind of ends the program tonight. I thank each one of you for being on, and we're here to help you. If you just want to call either any of us, Dennis or Chris or myself, we'll talk to you. Not only do we handle the crop side, but we also handle a lot of livestock products. We have water treatment products that are doing very well with livestock. We have bedding products, bedding conditioners, but we're real big in liquid manure treatment too. And again, that's a big part of this whole process that we've been talking about tonight. Get that manure pre-digested and broken down, drop all the salt levels and toxins, get it deputrified, liquefy it, get it ready to go to work in the field the minute you put it out there, and then put a cover crop with it if you can. And obviously the fall residue program, and you'll have a dynamite program, and you'll be saving money and improving your overall crop production system, and you'll love it. I'll guarantee it'll really work for you. That's what we've seen. So with that, I want to thank everybody again, and God bless each one of you. And if you do have time, join us next week, Wednesday, the 26th, at Eric Miller's farm, where we're going to talk about fence line farming. Thank you. Good evening.